The energy the last few days has been very interesting. Not only that, of course, but of course, on the electromagnetic background, things are even more intense now. There is quite a bit of activity that is going on right now with the sun, especially with the large coronal hole that is facing us. Things are definitely interesting right now, so let's break things down. Joe Sky back at it again with another update. So, as you can see on the Schumann Resonance right now, very early hours of February 16, 216, and we're getting in this integration pattern, which is pretty common. It looks like this horizontal energy, this white energy that was happening at the harmonic frequencies, that looks to be calming down. And of course, we have this integration pattern coming in. So far, nothing severe, nothing too intense, nothing really powerful, right? In the background, things are amplifying. When you look at the lower hertz, left is the hertz 0 to 30, right? And you see this white all the way towards the bottom. It's just getting thicker and thicker. The green looking thick. Um, all the energy is just ramping up. So this is very interesting stuff here. It definitely looks like the energy just keeps on intensifying. Um, the green blasting through the charts. It's been like this for over 2 weeks now. So the energy is definitely interesting. It looks like that one pattern we had, I talked about yesterday, where it's like these little energies that they happen at hour. Here's the funny thing: they both happen at hour 24. So if you look at the bottom, this runs in 2 hour intervals. If you look at hour 24 and you like go up, it's like a completely different pattern. And believe it or not, it keeps happening at hour 24. It's been like this for multiple days now. So I find this to be very interesting, right? The fact that it keeps happening at the same time for many days straight now. So I find that to be something very interesting. Um, and again, a big reminder to everyone, all this energy um, is truly, it's not, none of it is bad. None of it is, hammering at us. This is energy that is really helping us out. This is all, I like to say, divine intervention, right? And throughout this time, we need to be grounded. We need to be attuned with ourselves, right? Like we don't want to be disconnected from ourselves, right? I think connected to nature, being in the now, being present, pushing towards our best self, releasing the old self, and going to like our highest self right now, right? We all have a bunch of quests, we all have a bunch of goals and things that we want to do, adventures that we want to go on. Let's go on them, right? Let's live our best lives. Let's raise the vibration of ourselves and others, right? And I hope you've been watching the most recent YouTube shorts because they're very powerful. We do have ourselves a pretty big solar. We got our solar eclipse and a new moon. So this energy is really going to be kicking into gears as it's happening on the 17th. So definitely be sure to watch that video. If you need some help with your nervous system because you're new here and maybe you're on fight or flight, you experience trauma, definitely be sure to watch that course. Skimming through this right now, not much happening. Not much. But if you look at old data on Inatos, Italy, the magnetic field got some pretty odd activity here. Things are kind of intense. Growing station, magnetic field, that's down. Looks like we actually do have some serious solar activity, right? Not only do we have a massive coronal hole, but we had a pretty big, I would say a pretty nice sizable M-class solar flare. Looks like there's a high possibility of aurora. KP is just over 4 now. Solar winds are high. Interplanetary magnetic field was slightly south earlier. Get an idea what's going on. So we've had, wow, a pretty huge jump, right? From a B4 all the way to and M2.47. So very interesting here. I think because it just happened, I would make the assumption it probably happened from 4374. This is a pretty quick growing sunspot region. Here's the current sunspot regions that we have. Anything could happen, When we look at the coronal hole, this one's huge. This is a monstrous coronal hole. And as we're looking at it, there's the current time, 2026, 2:16, 4:48 UT time. Pretty big coronal hole. And like I said, towards the bottom, I said this on stream, it's dim down there. So that means it's chaining and it's going to get even larger. So this is going to be a pretty large coronal hole. If you look on the left though, something interesting, and again, we talked a lot about this coronal hole, right? Like, this is a really big one. Yeah, it's probably going to be around for a while. I don't know why the coronal hole's been chaining lately. But on the left side, we had a big eruption. Something definitely going on over there. That wasn't Earth facing. That was a solar flare on the far left side. I don't think it was 2.4. That one looked like it was probably one of these sunspot regions. But that one was on the far left. We got some really... Whoa, okay. That was a huge freaking solar flare. Look at that. So I use, now obviously, most of this stuff don't actually get this. When a solar flare happens, there's not always a CME, right? There's not always a ejection of plasma. But on 3 or 4 angstroms, this one usually highlights if a CME has come out. These pictures can get that in the most closest time, real time possible. On the GOES images and whatnot, they don't get that. But right now, that's a gigantic CME. That wasn't just a solar flare. That was a monstrous size eruption. The good news is that ain't going to come here. That is huge. Yeah, if you look towards the left side of the sun, it is busy over there. That is just huge. Again, big coronal hole. That left side is busy. The thematic map shows you the bright regions. Bright regions usually have quite a bit of activity. Usually they have the sunspot regions there, right? And there is a big sunspot region there. So there's a lot of activity going on there. That is huge. So that wasn't the 2.4. That was probably a current facing one. I don't know exactly which sunspot region. I have to put my bet it's probably one of these that are facing us. So that is something. Nothing too intense, It's not going to cause a monstrous size geomagnetic storm, but it's definitely something that did happen. So we might have some serious activity coming in the next week. Believe it or not, another 24, 48 hours, we're going to have the solar eclipse. We could have some sizable activity right now. Those sunspots could come and start facing us. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So we got some earthquakes happening in America. I know we've been having a bunch of 6-point pluses. One near Australia, one in Chile, and one in Russia. Is it still there? Yeah, 6.0 right over here in Russia. There's been quite a bit of earthquakes. So things have been ramping up some. So there's been 3, 6 plus earthquake magnitudes. Overall, I'm really grateful for everyone who's been watching. Really thankful. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Thank you so much.